Hold up, Browns Nation. We need to talk about what just happened, and trust me, it's not what anyone saw coming. While everyone's been focused on Joe Flacco taking the reins as our starting quarterback, there's a storm brewing that could completely derail our Super Bowl dreams before we even get started. And no, I'm not being dramatic. This is the kind of gut punch that changes everything. Picture this. You're feeling good about your team's direction, you've got a veteran quarterback who's been to the promised land, your offensive line finally looks stable, and then boom. One play in a meaningless preseason game potentially wipes out months of careful planning. That's exactly what happened to our Cleveland Browns just days ago, and the ripple effects are going to be massive. Here's what went down that has me losing sleep at night. Ethan Pocic, the anchor of our offensive line, the guy who started every single game since arriving in Cleveland, just suffered what looks like a season-ending knee injury in the preseason finale. Let that sink in for a moment. Our most reliable lineman, the one guy who played all 16 games last season while everyone else was dealing with injuries, is now potentially done before the season even starts. But here's why this is so much worse than just losing one player. Pocic isn't just any offensive lineman, he's the quarterback of our offensive line. The guy who makes the calls, sets the protection schemes, and has been the one constant in a position group that's been through more changes than a teenager's mood. Since coming over from Seattle before the 2022 season, he's been our Iron Man, starting all 44 games and becoming the foundation everything else is built on. And now, analyst Zach Jackson dropped the bomb on social media, posting that Pocic left the locker room with a brace on his left leg, and the early reports are painting a picture nobody wants to see. We're potentially looking at our starting center being unavailable when we need him most, right when Joe Flacco is trying to establish chemistry with his new offensive line. Think about the timing of this disaster. We just announced Flacco as our starter, signaling a new era of stability and veteran leadership. The guy's got Super Bowl experience, he knows how to handle pressure, and he was supposed to be the steady hand guiding us back to playoff contention. But here's the brutal reality. Even the most experienced quarterback in the world can't succeed if he's getting pressured up the middle because his center is injured. This isn't just about one position, either. Pocic's injury creates a domino effect that could destabilize our entire offensive identity. Cleveland has been building toward a power running game, the kind of physical, ground-and-pound offense that wears down defenses and controls the clock. Guess what position is most critical for that style? That's right center. The guy who has to fire off the ball, anchor against nose tackles, and create those crucial push blocks that spring our running backs. Without Pocic, we're looking at either Bucky Williams or rookie Luke Whippler stepping into the most demanding position on the offensive line. Now, Whippler showed some promise in limited action last season, even starting one game when Pocic was out, but there's a massive difference between spot duty and being the full-time anchor of an NFL offensive line. The kid's got talent, but is he ready for the heat that comes with protecting Joe Flacco against the likes of the Ravens and Steelers defense twice a year each? Here's what really gets me fired up about this situation. We finally had continuity on the offensive line. Finally had a group that knew each other, could communicate without thinking, and had developed that chemistry that takes years to build. Pocic was the centerpiece of that unit, literally and figuratively. His ability to identify defensive schemes, make protection calls, and help the guards and tackles around him was invaluable. Now we're potentially starting over with a rookie or a backup who hasn't had extensive starting experience. But you know what? If you've been following Brown's breakout, you know I don't just dwell on the problems, I look for solutions. And there are paths forward here, even if they're not ideal. Whippler, despite being young, has the intelligence and physical tools to potentially fill this role. The coaching staff has had time to work with him, and sometimes adversity creates opportunities for players to step up and prove they belong at this level. The bigger question is how this impacts our entire offensive philosophy. Are we still committed to that power running game if we don't have our anchor at center? Do we need to adjust our schemes to account for a less experienced player in the middle? And how does this affect Joe Flacco's comfort level as he's trying to establish himself as the leader of this offense? Here's where experience matters, and it's why having Flacco under center might actually be a blessing in disguise. This guy has seen every kind of adversity in his career. He's played behind shaky offensive lines, dealt with injuries to key players, and still managed to win a Super Bowl. If anyone can adjust his game and help a young center succeed, it's a veteran like Flacco who understands how to work with his protection. The AFC North is absolutely brutal, and every team in our division is going to test that center position. The Ravens have some nasty interior pass rushers, the Steelers always bring pressure up the middle, and even the Bengals have guys who can exploit a weakness at center. If Whippler or Williams is going to succeed, they're going to be baptized by fire right from the start. But here's what I keep coming back to: this Browns team has shown incredible resilience over the past few years. We've dealt with quarterback controversies, coaching changes, and key injuries, yet we keep finding ways to compete. The front office has built depth for exactly these kinds of situations, and now it's time to see if that depth can step up when it matters most. The season opener is going to tell us everything we need to know about how well this team can adapt. If our makeshift offensive line can protect Flacco and create running lanes for our backs, then maybe this injury won't derail our Super Bowl aspirations. But if we struggle with protection and can't establish our ground game, then we're looking at a much more challenging path to playoff contention. What really frustrates me about this whole situation is that it happened in a meaningless preseason game. These are the kinds of injuries that make you question why starters are even playing in the fourth preseason game. But that's football. Injuries can happen anytime, anywhere, and the teams that succeed are the ones that can adapt when adversity strikes. The silver lining, if there is one, is that this gives someone else a chance to become a hero. Whether it's Whippler showing he's ready for prime time or Williams proving he can be more than just a backup, someone is going to have the opportunity to make a name for themselves. Sometimes the best stories come from players who weren't supposed to be in the spotlight but rose to the occasion when their team needed them most. As we count down to the season opener, every Browns fan needs to understand that our expectations might need to adjust. This isn't necessarily the end of our Super Bowl dreams, but it's definitely going to make the journey more challenging. The good news is that we've got Joe Flacco, a quarterback who's proven he can succeed in adverse situations, and we've got a coaching staff that's shown they can adapt their game plans when necessary. The next few weeks are going to be crucial for this team's development. How quickly can the new starting center get up to speed? Can the offensive line maintain its chemistry with a new piece in the middle? And most importantly, can Joe Flacco work his magic and make everyone around him better, just like he did during that incredible Super Bowl run in Baltimore? Browns fans, this is why we can't take anything for granted in this league. One play can change everything, and now we're going to find out what this team is really made of. But if you know anything about Cleveland, you know we don't back down from a fight. We've been through worse, and we've come out stronger on the other side. This is just another chapter in what I believe can still be a special season, but it's going to require everyone to step up their game. Stay locked in with Browns Breakout for all the latest updates as we navigate through this challenge together, because Browns Nation never stops fighting, and neither do we.